And one of my favorite things to do is to tell them, like, hey, I can't do that, but
Right.
Josh over here can, right? Like, or somebody else can.
Me?
Right? I'm just saying.
Your next lawyer coming in soon. You know what I'm
no,
saying?
you're not pricing law. I'm just, like, there's a lawyer named Josh somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere. Yeah, you're right. Hi, I'm Josh Owen. As the owner of a video marketing company in New Orleans, I've been on the quest to learn everything I can about marketing. Everyone has a different style, different strategy, and a different experience. Is there a wrong way to do it? A right way to do it? Let's find out together as we make marketing make sense. We're on Make Marketing Make Sense. Thank you all for joining. I got the one, the only Scott Sternberg here with remind me again what it's Scott.
It's Sternberg, Naccari, and White. That's
Sternberg,
the name of my law
Naccari,
firm,
and
yes.
White.
Yeah.
It's a mouthful, so I never.
It is.
I remember your name, but then I'm like, oh gosh, there's
And
like a bunch of other guys in there.
If you said Naccari, you would say it like 99% of the rest of the world. Because I'm telling you, I called our number the other day, and the answering service picked up, and they said Naccari. And I wanted to be like, guys, like, this is your job, is to pronounce this guy's name right. My partner, Keith, the poor guy.
Yeah.
Like, I have to phonetically put his name on everything.
Yeah, that's the crazy. And that's always the thing about the law firms. You're branded as your last names for the most part.
You know, we looked at that. We were like, what if we did something other than our last names?
Yeah.
Everybody else does their last names. Let's do something. We could not come up with something.
Really?
Yeah, because there are all these rules about what you can say, what you can't say. Like, you can't be like the best law firm, LLC. You can't do that. You know, there are things that you can and can't do.
Yeah.
And we couldn't come up with like an inanimate name. You know?
Yeah, that's tough.
Like Lighthouse Law. Like, what does that say?
Yeah. Okay.
What does that really say?
All right. Maybe we can do some brainstorming and think about.
So we went with like Sternberg, Naccari, White, right? Like,
yeah.
so like
you went all the way around
Italian,
to like the back to the same spot.
White.
White.
I mean, like, that's kind of what we went with.
Wow.
And it really works.
You know, if there's one thing in this country, that seems like a trustworthy name. You know?
I mean, look, we got them all covered, right? I mean, like, I think that it actually reflects quite well, like, who we are. Like, we're very different groups.
Nice. I like that. Well, I feel like I should at least ask, when you're talking about law, like, what kind of law do you guys do?
You know, it's a firm that's kind of like an island of misfit toys these days. You know, we do a lot of different stuff, but we really pride ourselves on being business counsel to, like, small and mid-sized businesses, family businesses, right? We've got some big clients, we've got some small clients, but, on my side, and what I really do is business litigation, but I also do, like, media litigation. That's kind of what people know my practice as.
Gotcha.
I represent the newspapers and TV stations in the state and in other states too sometimes. So
okay.
It's fun.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
And so, obviously going out on your own is a big deal, but then you kind of start a firm. What has it been like starting your firm leading up to now?
It's been quite an adventure. I mean, anybody who's ever like started a business knows, that it's a risk, right? I was really lucky that I had this just amazing spouse that was so supportive, and she had great health insurance. And so we,
key important, you can't be out there on your own,
you save your money and then you just take the leap, right?
Yeah.
And I think that if I hadn't done it then, that I never would have, because later on I had more children, I had obligations. But yeah, I mean, we started with 3, about 6.5 years ago, and we're up to 20 today in 2 cities. So 3 actually. Cities,
wow,
but
that's a big jump.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not what I thought I'd be doing, is like managing a law firm and kind of. But I really enjoy the growth portion of it.
Yeah,
and I like adding new people to the mix and like seeing if we can add their distinctiveness to our own.
Yeah, because that's a good point. Like, what where do you see like the real like catalyst for where you guys really was the jumping off point for you guys?
I mean, I have to say it was the pandemic, and the way that we work, which led into the pandemic. We had this idea that we could use Slack, right, which a lot of reporting organizations use, political organizations. Right. I know you guys probably use it here. Yeah. We
Loving Slack, that's our thing.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't love Slack?
Yeah, right.
I mean, it's one of these, when we started using Slack actually called and like asked if like I would be a law firm ambassador or whatever.
Whoa!
And I was like, but I'd be happy to extol the virtues of Slack.
I was hoping that we would have an ambassador on this show at some point.
Yeah, I mean,
we'll still be on the lookout.
They didn't want to pay me, so No, but I mean, honestly, like Slack was just a really great addition because
Right.
what it did was it allowed us to kind of silo people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, this case is going here. You know, this marketing channel here is going to talk about like Facebook marketing. What
Right.
can we do, right? And we put the people in those channels that really want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And we can keep people out of the channels who aren't going to contribute or have other things they need to do.
Right.
And so when the pandemic hit, you know, we shut the office down. We had just moved into this nice office. You know, you'd been there. It's not like marble clad and all that, but it's a cool office, a fun office.
Yeah.
And you know, when the pandemic hit, we just didn't go back to the office and kept working on Slack. And so we were doing these, you know, daily huddles on a Slack channel, you know, in March 2020 already.
Right.
And so it wasn't a big change for us to just keep doing that.
Right.
And you know, we really kind of leaned into it. We knew that there was going to be a bunch of government programs to keep businesses alive. Because if we're going to shut the economy down, there's no way that the economy could survive.
Right.
All the businesses just dying on the vine.
Exactly.
Right? I mean,
Exactly.
surely lots of businesses, you know, had really tough times during the pandemic. And we didn't do great, but we leaned in and said, like, we're going to do all this, like, educational programming. We're going to teach people how to do their PPP loans. We're going to offer to do it all, you know, as they say in gambling, like, on the come. Like, we're going to do it with the idea that we might be able to get paid on the back end, but no guarantee.
Right.
And it did pay off for us. Not like we're not, like, rolling in it. But what it really did was build, like, 10, 20 years of brand equity in, like, 6 months.
Yeah. I mean, that's incredible. I mean, I think a lot of people don't think about their, you know, they think, okay, I just got to make money. They never think about what investments can I make to be able to build my brand, and what can I do to, like, make people realize that I'm a thought leader and that what I have a lot of value that I can provide people. And when they do eventually, you know, need our services, they're going to remember the person that, like, got them off their, you know, started with their PPP loans or kept them afloat or whatever. They're going to remember you for that. And so, like, that's incredible to like, you know, was that like a thing, like, how did you, I guess, like, think to do that? Like, was that like a thing you just, like, was it like just a gut instinct, or what made you think to do that?
You know, it's interesting. We were trying to figure out how we were going to stay afloat and what we were going to do. Because the thing about being a lawyer is that there's always a deadline. I've got deadlines today. And no matter where you are, even if you're on vacation in Tahiti, there is still that guillotine, that clock is always running.
Right.
But for the first time in my practice, and for most people's practice, the only time, the clock just stopped for like a really long time.
Wow.
And a lot of lawyers were unsure what to do. Like, do I bill the client some time, but like the client can't afford it? What do I do? And so we came up with this idea that we were just going to market the hell out of it. We're going to figure out a way to promote ourselves online. Everybody's sitting on Facebook.
Yeah.
How do we make their eyeballs go to us?
Yeah.
We didn't have the brand equity that like a Jones Walker does or Phelps Dunbar, right? But we did have really energetic young people who were willing to get on camera and talk about employment issues during the pandemic, and talk about, you know, how much of your EIDL loan can be forgiven, right? And that stuff wasn't particularly hard to put together, but as y'all saw coming in with us, we just decided to just go all in and see if we couldn't make some friends out of it, if not some money.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I mean, so you're saying, like, you guys filmed yourselves talking about all these things, put it up there online, and, like, you just saw the, like, people, I mean, like, do you still see people to this day coming to you, like, saying, like, man, I saw you, you know, talk about this thing that, you know, the during the pandemic?
Absolutely. I think that one of the biggest things that I see that's lasting from that is that people say, like, I know that name. Why do I know that name? In the back of my mind, I'm saying, I know why you know that name, because we were doing the videos.
Yeah.
And we were out there in the community offering our services. You know, we weren't hired by these folks.
Yeah.
They just watched, and we weren't representing them, but they knew that we were lawyers who would help them if they needed the help. Most of them didn't.
Yeah.
But when they come on down the line and they say, oh, I watched one of those videos, or that was so helpful for my business, or for my dad's business, or my cousin's business, you know, I think it was like in a weird way, like just something to give us something to do and feel good about it.
Awesome. Yeah. No, I mean, that's incredible. I think people often forget, like, how important brand equity is, and, like, you're a speaking testament to how, like, you, like, such a simple thing, and it took you so far in such a short amount of time, which is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, we were already kind of on a upward trajectory at that point. We had just added a few new lawyers, and we were really excited about the future. In fact, we had just had like a retreat, like probably a couple weeks before,
Nice.
and I had said like, hey guys, 2020 is our year. Like we're gonna kill it.
Whoa.
And then like a month later,
and I don't know if is that prophecy or divine intervention.
No, I try. Look.
Yeah.
Terrible things happened during the pandemic, and lots of people, lost their lives, their family, and their loved ones.
Yeah.
And so I don't go around and tell folks how happy I am about what happened with COVID. That's not true. I'm not happy about it. But we made the best of a really bad situation, and I think that we were really well placed and very privileged and fortunate to be all rowing in the same direction on Slack.
Yeah. Yeah. You rode that wave.
We did, and we had just done, in January 2020, we turned every conference call into a video conference just to try it out.
Yeah.
I had read something about it in a book.
Really?
Yeah, and I was like, it said, well, you learn more if you receive more if you're looking the person in the eyes.
Yeah.
And, I bet you can't turn every conference call into a video conference. And there were only like 5 or 6, 7, 8 of us then. And so I was like, every phone call, video conference for a month. And of course, no one did it but me. But we had just done that. And we're like, okay, cool. So now everything's just like Scott tried to make us do a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
And like Zoom. Yeah. Google Workspace was what we used. And so Google Hangouts was very common. We just clicked the button.
Yeah. You made it happen. Man, you just click the button and there you were.
And even today, when we're working on stuff together, we'll be in offices down the hallway and we'll get on a Slack huddle or a Teams call and look at each other in the eyes. You really do learn more. Yeah. You receive more when you're looking at somebody. Yeah. It's just a fact.
Man, I mean, you have summed up so many things I always want to say is like, like visualizing all of this stuff that you're talking about. Visualizing video speaks so much more louder than, just anything that's on, whether it's through voice or through email. Like you showed how that if you are able to see a face and connect with a face that's telling you something, telling you advice, it's a leap and bound difference, comparatively speaking. So that's so awesome. And I think, now that you've done all that, what's your future looking like?
I mean, look, I think the future of legal services in general is like very interesting to talk about. A lawyer's time is her stock in trade, his stock in trade. That's how we make money. But, when AI comes in and tells you that you can do this amount for 1/300th of the time, how do you charge for that? Do you charge the 1/300th of the time, or do you charge the actual work that it took to put that in, and what's ethical and what's not? I'll tell you this. I grew up in a household where people hated lawyers. Hated them.
They hated them.
And they hate the legal system, too.
Did you change their perceptions?
I don't know.
TBD,
Ask me in 10 years.
10 years. All right. We'll come back.
I just think that people's interaction with lawyers is usually negative. Right? They've been in a car accident or someone's died, right? Like something bad's happened or they've been sued, God forbid, right? And then they get the bill and they're even more mad and sad, right? I mean, like it's just
all
a
emotions.
double whammy.
Yeah.
And so, we've got to figure out how to make the legal services from the courts to the smallest, criminal guy who only does city court. We got to figure out how to make that whole thing work for the consuming public. Yeah. Because right now you can go to 3 different lawyers and get 3 totally different bills.
Really?
Yeah, because it takes one person longer to literally type the brief out, right? Like I type 115 words a minute, and if you type half of that, I mean it costs more.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to figure out how to standardize pricing in the legal sector, and that is going to really kind of narrow the market, and I think the people in the market too.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, I mean, that's a great way to sum up, everything we're talking here. Like, what advice would you give someone as they're preparing themselves to find a lawyer? Like, what would be your advice? Especially businesses looking that might need this or might need that. Like, how would you sum that up?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I talk to a lot of folks who are looking for a lawyer, and they don't necessarily hire me. Sometimes they're looking for somebody that I can't be. And one of my favorite things to do is to tell them, like, hey, I can't do that, but
Right.
Josh over here can, right? Like, or somebody else can.
Me?
Right? I'm just saying.
Your
like,
next lawyer coming in soon. You know what
no,
I'm saying?
you're not pricing law. I'm just, like, there's a lawyer named Josh somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere. Yeah, you're right.
But, like that referral process is something I really enjoy because the client's happy and,
Right.
I'm happy because I helped somebody out. And that lawyer's happy because they got a client. But everybody comes in with a totally different array of questions because you can Google everything.
Right.
And I assume this is why doctors hate WebMD.
Yeah.
Right? But, I mean, like if you're using LegalZoom to set up your business, I can't promise you that it's going to be done right because I'm not the lawyer that did it. And
Right.
if you do that on the front end and then you've got millions of dollars of problems on the back end, that might be why you have the $1 million of problems because you didn't put the time in on the front end. And that's a tough conversation to have with somebody, particularly somebody who's very cost conscious, right?
Yeah.
I've had clients, eschew a $5,000 hearing and it cost them 7 years of litigation and $100,000.
Wow.
Like if they had just done the hearing, boom, no problem, right? And cost them $100,000.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah, and I mean, like, there's smaller and larger that I could give examples of, but the fact that the law is not standardized across states, across countries, and it really depends on the court you're in, the judge you're in front of, who your opposing counsel is, who the opposing party is, if they're rich and powerful, maybe.
Yeah.
I think that the thing that I always try to emphasize to clients is like, hey, I can't predict the future, but I can tell you that I'm going to do the best job that I can for the least amount of money that I can ethically charge you. Knowing that my time is my stock in trade. And if you're not going to be okay with paying that, then we probably need to part ways.
Right.
And so I think that's, we have such informed consumers these days, for good and for bad.
Yeah.
I think ultimately it's a good thing.
Yeah.
But, I think that like our website, and the way that we talk about ourselves at Sternberg, Naccari White is like, there are lawyers out there that will charge you for leaving a voicemail.
Wow.
And, like it's one of these things, I'm not.
Dang, I got to be careful what I say.
Yeah, I don't know names. I'm not saying anything. But, like if you see the lawyer come up on the phone, you're like, I don't want to pay, to talk to this lawyer right now. I'm going to do it later. And then they leave you a voicemail and charge you for the voicemail. It's just a killer.
Wow.
Just devastating.
Yeah. That makes sense.
And if that's the way the system works, it probably needs to be reformed.
Yeah.
And so I think that we are really trying hard not to charge people for things that we think are kind of stupid.
Right.
Like voicemails. Voicemails are important.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're not. I'm saying that 5 minutes probably isn't billable.
Yeah.
And, people charge for scans. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you know that people charge for copies, right? Lots of people charge for copies. There's ink and paper, right?
Yeah.
What is used in a scanner that you can charge for physically? I just, I don't get it. We don't charge people for copies. We don't charge people for scans.
Yeah.
Because we kind of build it into our hourly rate.
Yeah.
And if there's enough copies, we call them ahead of time and say, hey, we're going to charge you 25 cents a page.
Yeah. Because, I mean, I've seen some legal documents. Those things can get thick. So it's like
thousands of pages.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
It's an interesting problem. And, like Zoom and kind of the video conferencing capability is going to change a lot of the way that we charge people for time.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. Well, hey, I mean, I think what I would say and all that, too, from what I'm hearing, what you're saying is, like, it's a process, but ultimately you need to, like, really, would you say it's best to, like, shop around and really find the right person that speaks to you? Or how would you say about, like, how do you find the right person, the right lawyer that fits you?
I would say that lots of lawyers will say that they can do it, and that finding the one who actually can is the hardest part. Shopping around is not the way to do it. If you're penny wise, you'll be pound foolish. I mean, I'm not saying
so you just got to dive in. You got to just go for it.
I'm not saying you got to pay for the Range Rover. Okay, I'm not saying that. But if the $100 difference or whatever is also the difference in like knowledge and experience, you want to see what that lawyer has done in that area. That's what you should be focused on. And then you should ask about the money. Because the money is going to be tough no matter what. And, if you can't afford it, then you can't afford it. But the folks that we target, right, the business owners, the folks that, are listening to NPR on a Tuesday morning, right, those folks are growing. They have needs. They know they need to spend a budget on their legal services.
Right.
and we try to meet them where they are.
Yeah, that makes sense. No, I mean, I think that's a great point. You got to meet them where they are, and like I'm sure they're there. They're waiting to have it. So, well, speaking of we're thankful for you to be on the show with us, man. Dude,
Yeah, it's exciting.
Killing. Yeah. So, where can people find you all on the internet?
Well, I mean, we obviously we're at snw.law. We've got one of those .law domains that, it seemed like a cool idea 10 years ago. But, I don't know. I think it'll be all right.
Yeah.
And then we're online on Facebook and on Instagram. We've got a good Instagram following. There are lots of rules about what lawyers can say and can't say in public.
Right, yeah.
And so, we don't get to do some of the creative marketing that you guys probably love.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you can find us online, or actually, if you just Google, Sternberg, Naccari White, or any of our names, Keith Naccari, Scott Sternberg,
you'd be the one. You
pop
right
we
up.
will come up.
Nice.
Yeah, it is a thing that I really am just amazed by still.
Yeah.
Is that I have a website with my picture on it.
Yeah,
that's
that brand equity. You built that brand equity. You built it far enough that you're here. We're doing it, and we made it awesome. So thanks for being on the show, man. And we'll see all you on the next one.
Yeah, for sure.
Bing, bang, boom. This has been Make Marketing Make Sense, brought to you by Comfystone. If you need video content for social media, your website, or email marketing, hit up Comfystone at comfystone.com and follow Comfystone on Instagram and TikTok. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.